Hello everyone and welcome back to another drawing time of INKroverts. This is the third character concept art we've been through, and so for this video we are going to talk about just three things. The first thing is the shape and the colours, and second thing is about how I drew the hands and the face, and lastly, as the title said, that we're going to talk about the difference between concept art and other artwork like narrative drawings and portraits, and what's the difference between them. And so let's carry on with the intro first. Alright, we start off looking at the drafts. This is all the character poses that I've thought about, and here is the final product you've seen in the beginning. And this looks like a fairly simple pose. The character is standing upright and only her arm is outstretched towards the audience. And first off, let's start talking about the shape of this drawing. The biggest shape here is obviously the character as a whole. I've talked about it in my last video, which I said if you're going to draw a shape, a pose for your character, you would want the pose to be very clear about what your character is doing, and instead of all the limbs tangled together or overlapping with the torso, even by the silhouette you will know what the character is, what he's doing and their personality, etc, etc. So here I made a little mistake when I first decided that the hand is going to stretch out towards the audience, because once I used the bucket tool or the paintbrush to draw the silhouette of the character, as you can see here, the outstretched hand is overlapped with the chest, and so if everything is in grey, you won't be able to tell where the other arm is. So maybe sometimes you can't avoid some overlapping. And there are a lot of artwork in which the character's arm is outstretched towards the front, and so you can't see the arm properly. And to make the hand look more visible, you would want to use contrasting values in order to make the hand here pop. For example, I will make the hand very pale and the clothes and the shirt behind the hand very dark, and so when I color it or use the three values, I'm still able to see the hand, because when you color it you don't really just see the silhouette of the character. Value also plays a huge role in showing the composition of the drawing, and so this is what I did. And the next thing I had to watch out for is the colours. And the thing I want to talk about colours is the warm and cool colour. I've said about this before a few videos back, and basically a very important concept to know about colours is the warm and cool colour. Cool colours are the colour that gives off a very cool feeling. For example, blue and green and purple is considered cool colours, and for warm colour it gives more friendly feeling, and it will be used for some happier artwork. For example, red and orange and yellow, those sort of colours that reminds you of the sun. With these two types of colours in mind, you would either want the cool colour to be to represent the shadow areas, and the warm color for the light areas. So what I wanted to do or maybe this is what you want to do as well, is to find out whether you want cool colors for shadows or warm colors for shadows, and then stick to it for the whole drawing or whole painting. As you can see, my coloring here, I drew a large part of the character in blue on the right, and this is what I wanted for the dark area, and I am going to change that for a bit, but not now, but at least you can see my point. And here's the tip about using really cool color, really warm color for highlight, or brightly cool, brightly warm colors. For example, no part of the character is literally blue, because her dress is in brown and her shirt is in dark brown. But where did the blue part come from? It's something a lot of artists use for their artwork. It's to use a very eye-catchingly different color that still fits with the warm color, cool color scheme on the darkest or the lightest part. And at the end it gives flair, because because highlight is about being eye-catching, and I'm not sure how I explain this, but you can see what I'm doing in the video. However, don't give too much different kinds of highlights there. If you're going to use blue for a highlight, you don't use blue and yellow and red for different places, unless you have more than one light source, but that's a topic for another day. So let's carry on to the hands part. You can see that I'm drawing the hands here. I've been at it for quite a while, as because I'm not sure how to draw the hand properly. At the end I had to use a photo of my own hand. This is a photo that I took at the spot because I need reference. I couldn't find it on Pinterest or on any other places. So, and I tried to position the light source on my left so that it matches with the artwork I was doing. And anyway, for the hand, it can be complicated if it is the focal point of your artwork, because you need more details than just 3 colors. But otherwise, you can simplify it with values and shapes. For example, what I was doing there was instead of drawing separate fingers and separate, all the lines and wrinkles on the hand, I just carved out a big shape of the hand, and then for the other 2 values it was the same thing. And at the end I sort of dealt with it. At least I'm actually satisfied with how the hand looked, because it went better than I expected for someone as inexperienced as me. And then after the 3 values I went to other places. After a while I looked back at the hand and it still looked acceptable to me, so I left it at that. And another thing I want to talk about in this part is the facial feature when drawing the character. I think it is the hardest part of the whole thing, because it's the face. For each part of the face I need to have reference of its own. For example, I need to find reference for the nose, I need to find reference for the mouth, and then for the eyes, etc. Now, if I have, I sometimes will even find reference for the ears, but here the ears aren't very visible, so I didn't look at a reference very much. And that's pretty much it. On to the last part, which is the difference between concept art and other artwork, for example, narrative drawings and portraits. Now, why is it called concept art in the first place? First off, concept art is about presenting an idea. It's like a draft for your idea, for your character and environment. It's about the concept, and it serves as a reference material for future art. For example, if you are going to draw another bigger artwork, or you're going to write a story, or you're going to write a screenplay, etc. And you need something to refer to. And concept art is something it's like a character design sheet where you look at it and imagine your story or your future artwork has this character, having this character in them. And a lot of people misunderstand concept art as a complete and beautiful artwork, just like any other art. Because when you buy concept art book of movies, for example, you buy in bookstores the art of Pixar, the art of Into the Spider-Verse, art of Inside Out, art of How to Train Your Dragon. And when you buy those art books, you open it and you see a lot of beautifully painted artwork, and you would think that this is what concept art is. But you have to know that those art books on the shelves are specifically edited by the marketing team of those, movie companies or whatsoever, and they wanted to make it as beautiful as possible so that people will buy it. Whereas in reality, concept art is not all complete artwork, not all have, all the details and highlights, and some of the concept art might not even have colours in it. Not all concept art looks like a finished artwork with really attractive visual contents. That's why when you see some interviews or Q&A video of concept artists on the internet, maybe on YouTube, you can look it up, they will tell you that as for concept artist, your technical drawing skill is actually less important than your creativity, because it's concept and you have to come up with idea, and that's what concept artist work is like. I've seen the Rise of the Guardians art book, and it's just like other movie art books like Art of Pixar and Art of How to Train Your Dragon, and in there you see a lot of initial designs of the characters. And for example, the Sandman there, they would present a very well drawn artwork of Sandman, but then the design wasn't come with just this drawing of the Sandman. There are hundreds other different designs. Maybe they look very sketchy and very not promotional material like, and then the editor would just not put them into the art book. I think I said a lot about concept art. The main point I learned about all this is to have your own unique idea, and it's okay if you don't draw it very, very well, just like those splash art from League of Legends. You don't have to get to that level. If you have a good idea, I encourage you to draw it on paper, and perhaps someday you want to finish that as an artwork, or maybe you have other brilliant ideas you want to note down. It's your choice. It doesn't matter whether you want to become a concept artist or that your goal is not really about becoming concept artist. The meaning of concept art is just present your idea, whether to others or to yourself. That's it. That's what I want to say here. And good timing. Here's the result of my character design. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to click subscribe and like. And if you're interested, you can go to INKroverts.com, where you can take a look at the weekly updated portfolio and blog entries, or you can subscribe to the weekly newsletter there. And that's about it. And I'll see you next time. Bye.